I'm an awful human being, everybody.
Well, we already knew that. What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of MCUEx. I'm Doug Herring.
I'm Nick Fox.
And we have some cool stuff to talk about today. There's not a ton of big news that dropped in the past week.
Nope.
We have one big story that we're going to get to in just a second. But everything else is all about the future, and instead of solid news, it's a lot more speculation. So this is the first MCUEx speculation special, where we're just going to talk about what we hope to see in the MCU, what we think might be likely, what probably isn't likely but we want to see anyway.
Things I think are likely but nobody else thinks is likely.
Right, and that gives you the opportunity to jump into the comments and let us know what you think of our theories, give us your theories of your own, and all that sort of good stuff about the MCU in the future and the mysteries that only Kevin Feige knows.
Yeah, think about this like you sitting around with your friends, having a couple drinks, talking about the MCU. That's what the speculation is all about.
Exactly.
This is the stuff we all talk about, but we're actually just doing it right here for all of you right now.
Right, and there are no bad ideas except the ones that come from Nick. So if you have an idea, again, about anything we talk about today, and we don't even know exactly what we're going to be talking about yet.
That's the glory of speculation.
So if you have thoughts or ideas or theories about anything, put them in the comments below. We love to read them, and we might talk about them. If you give us a really cool idea, we'll talk about it and, mention you on a future episode.
Yeah, and if Doug's voice cracks again, just let him know.
And it will. It does that because I am a child. I'm a 12-year-old boy becoming a man, just like Spider-Man. So, before we get into the speculation, there is one bit of news that dropped early last week.
And you've all heard this by now.
You've all heard it. You've all seen it. You might have watched my reaction video to it.
I did.
The very first trailer and poster for Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 has dropped. So, Nick, you've watched the trailer. You've seen the poster. Let's talk about that poster first.
Okay.
What do you think?
It looks like something out of The Outsiders to me. Like, you have a bunch of, street-level gangsters leaning up against a wall, loitering around.
Yes. I think the first term you used when I showed it to you was space greasers.
Oh, yeah, that is what I called it. Yeah, space greasers, which is, okay, I'm still in the same thing. It's The Outsiders.
Yeah.
The Socias and the Greasers. They're definitely the Greasers there. I think it's such a cool image, and maybe we'll box it here just so everyone can enjoy it while we're talking about it. I like forcing Doug to edit things in later.
Yes.
The one thing that I love, and we see it in the poster, we see it in the teaser, and that is Nebula's upgrades. No one has really been talking about this.
Oh, yeah.
And it's one of my favorite things. So Nebula was very smooth. She had some sort of more mechanical parts to her, but now she has these great gold, vents on the side of her head.
Yeah, they're kind of subtle.
Yeah.
They don't look that different. I mean, the biggest change is, of course, Groot and Yondu.
Right.
Yondu has the big fin on his head.
Finally.
Right, which I'm very excited about. And Groot is now Baby Groot. Everybody else looks basically the same.
And here's, we're probably going to start the speculation a little bit early.
That's okay.
I think you need to have Groot be that size. He was sort of OP in the last movie.
Yeah.
And knowing that he can just create a protective shell around everybody, should you be falling back to planet whatever,
right,
Xandar, I think it helps if he doesn't have that ability. And I think it definitely raises the stakes in a different way. It doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to get a more powerful villain.
Right.
But it means that the stakes will be raised because they don't have their contingency plan anymore.
It also makes Groot's sacrifice in the first one much more meaningful.
Yes.
If it was the kind of thing where he could do that and then a few hours or days later be back to normal, then why? Yeah, exactly. Why doesn't he just do that anytime there's a threat? But when this basically kills him, and James Gunn has talked about how it's sort of Groot's child.
Yeah.
It's not quite the same thing.
It's like a cutting.
He doesn't have all of Groot's memories.
Right.
He has a slightly different personality. So, yeah, Groot...
He's slightly more adorable.
He's very much more adorable. But the Groot we knew and loved is dead. And this is a new Groot. Groot is dead, long live Groot. So, and then the last thing I'll say about the poster.
There's your tagline right there. Marvel Studios, are you listening?
Speaking of taglines, though.
Right.
The last thing I want to say about the poster is, of course, for Guardians 1, the tagline was, "You're welcome," which was great. And Guardians 2 is, obviously.
Well, I will say this. So, first of all, I mean, yeah, Guardians Volume 2, obviously, really says it all.
Greenlit before Guardians 1 came out.
Right.
So, yeah, obviously.
But it actually reminds me of something I used to do in college, and that is whenever I would make a film project. For those who don't know, I have a film degree. At the end of a lot of my videos, would just add, "Congratulations on watching it." And
yeah, I could see that being somewhere in the Guardians of the Galaxy 2 credits.
Yeah, just at the very, very end. Like, "Congratulations on watching Guardians."
Right.
And it fits in with their sort of subversiveness. The entire marketing campaign is, or actually the entire world that they've created for the Guardians is effectively, what if there was a galaxy of Tony Starks?
Right. Where everybody's just kind of snarky and sarcastic.
Yeah. And I like that. Because I feel like one of the weaknesses of the other movies is that Tony Stark almost never has another person to, like, banter with properly.
Sure, yeah.
He always leads that.
And people criticized Age of Ultron for having too much banter. But really, and there were some quips. And yeah, Black Widow and Cap got in on it too. But really, when you talk about that really sharp wit, Stark's the only one doing it all the time.
Yeah, and you don't have anybody who's doing like a West Wing style petaconferencing banter. And you need someone of Tony Stark's level to do that. Guardians gives us that.
I think Doctor Strange is going to give us that too.
I hope so.
From what I've seen.
I haven't.
Right. And we didn't talk about that last
Maybe we'll speculate about that.
But Doctor Strange is coming out very soon, and from what I saw in the IMAX preview, super excited for it. And the Rotten Tomatoes score, which we'll talk about in a bit maybe, is looking real good for that so far.
Yeah, and so let's talk about the trailer.
Let's talk about the trailer itself, yes.
Because there's one scene, or one shot in that I want to get your opinion on, and that's the falling bodies.
Yeah, what is that? I'm so interested in that.
Does anybody out there know what that could be? Is there something in the comics that we're just completely ignoring? Because
I don't think... I mean, yeah, I might... There might be something that I'm just completely ignorant of.
Yeah.
But nothing I've seen and nothing I'm aware of would make sense for those slow-motion falling bodies.
Right. And I watched that part a lot.
Rocket and Yondu, like, badass walking through them.
Yeah.
And the bodies were falling in slow motion, right? Because Rocket and Yondu were walking at normal speed.
Yeah, that's how I perceived it anyway. I was focusing more on the bodies.
Sure.
I'm going to call it now. Here we go. Some speculation. We're going to start our speculation cast off right.
All right.
Speculation. One of the title tracks of Awesome Mix Volume 2 will be played while they're doing that walk.
Do you think it'll be It's Raining Men?
Oh, I didn't think so, but I hope so now.
When did that song come out? That's time appropriate.
It was written by 2 Tons of Fun, later renamed the Weather Girls. That's right. If you're 2 fat women and you have a band...
It's close.
What is it?
Quill was abducted in 1984. It was released in 1983. His mom already had cancer at that point. But she could have made him another mixtape.
Well, did she make it or didn't she? I mean, that's the question.
As opposed to...
She might have just directed somebody like, put some good songs in there.
Hey, Dad, make this mixtape for my kid? Yeah, sure. That could happen.
Just, I don't know, record whatever's on the top 40 station right now. Because there are definitely some songs in Volume 1 that don't quite fit, like Cherry Bomb.
Yeah.
But I love Cherry Bomb.
Well, you have to imagine, this is a woman making a mixtape for her son, who is, 8 at the time.
Yeah.
So there are some songs where I didn't know why they would be included.
Right. Well, so long as we don't get, a Spider-Man 2 Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head moment. Do you remember that at all?
I don't. It's been a while since I've seen Spider-Man 2.
So in Spider-Man 2, the Raimi movie, not the later Amazing Spider-Man series, there is a sequence where he gives up the mantle to Spider-Man.
Right.
And they have a musical sequence cut together to Raindrops Keep Falling on My Head, where Peter Parker is just ignoring sirens and like licking an ice cream cone as police scream
Okay,
by.
I vaguely remember that now that you say that.
It's not as bad as the emo Peter Parker that they had in the next movie.
Nothing
but
is.
It's definitely a little strange. It was actually temp music that they left in. They cut it to...
Oh, no.
They cut it to that, and then they watched it in dailies or whatever, and they went, yeah, let's leave
That's
that in.
fine.
Let's just get the rights to that. Why not? You know, they might as well have just gone to like Bobby McFerrin and been like, hey, can we get Don't Worry, Be Happy? When did that come out? Hold on, could that be in Volume 2?
I don't think so. I think that's a little too late.
Don't worry, be happy. And someday we will have... Oh, yeah, 88.
Just a few years too late.
Well, maybe some other Bobby McFerrin.
So other than the falling bodies, anything jump out at you about the trailer? There wasn't too much there because it was a teaser trailer, not a full trailer. So there was no story hints really.
But there's enough to really, really whet your appetite on that.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And a lot of teasers these days make the mistake of being like, thematic message.
Right.
Here's an image. And then a tagline at the end. And we definitely saw that with Batman v Superman, as if we haven't talked about that enough. Where the original trailer, where it's like, no, do you bleed?
Right.
You will. Sounded amazing.
Sure.
Watching that trailer alone, you're like, this is going to be the best movie ever.
Right.
And so, excuse me, watching this, it actually felt like they were giving you little hints of what the tone was going to be.
Right.
And it felt just like Guardians 1.
I have a feeling that some of the images that were completely out of context in this teaser, once you see the movie, if you go back and watch this teaser, you'll be like, oh, there are actually some pretty big spoilers in here.
Oh, yeah. And I think Gunn is the type that he's confident enough in his work that he would greenlight that.
I think so.
Yeah.
And then the little bit of dialogue we got between Star-Lord and Drax.
I'm sorry, can we just... I'm sorry, completely just to derail this. Can we look at the lyrics for Don't Worry, Be Happy that Google gives me? It just goes, ooh, ooh, hoo, hoo, ooh, hoo, hoo, ooh, ooh. Like, that's... I want text-to-speech to read this.
Oh, that'd be good.
Yeah. It would sound just like Bobby McFerrin. I'm sorry. Just classic Nick derailing of everything.
Yes. We are derailed.
I'm going to close this tab so I don't get distracted anymore.
Smart man. What were we talking about?
We were talking about James Gunn being willing to put things that are big spoilers into the trailer.
And then we had the little bit of dialogue that we got between Drax and Star-Lord.
Yes.
And
so what do you think the deal is there? Is Drax like going through sensitivity training?
I think that time spent with the Guardians, Quill and Rocket specifically, has started to give him a very, very weak understanding of metaphor and a very weak understanding of what it means to be a friend and give advice and do, be a guy.
Because you can't say human. Be a good human being.
Right.
He's not.
But he's working on it. And
I sort of like the awkwardly sentimental Drax. I think it works in a really bizarre way.
And James Gunn has said that he feels like Dave Bautista is going to steal this movie. And from that scene, I could see it.
And he's a big enough guy. I would not try and steal it back from him.
Yeah. And also from the context of that scene, seems like there's maybe a little bit of a romantic angle between Star-Lord and Gamora.
Which they did hint at in the first one.
Which they hinted at, and they also seemed like they're going to shut that down because Gamora is not a dancer.
Well, hey, you can't stop pelvic sorcery.
But she can. There are two
Only
types of
so
beings
long.
in this universe, those who dance and those that do not.
But what about Kevin Bacon?
Kevin Bacon's a dancer. And so Star-Lord will have to find somebody else who is a dancer like him, who's better for him than Gamora is. Maybe that's Mantis. Maybe that's probably not Nebula.
Oh my god, can you imagine that dysfunction? Him and Nebula. Just, like, that'd be a sitcom level romance right there.
Agreed.
They're on again, off again. She tries to kill him. He breaks off her arm. She gets a new one.
Right.
Tale as old as time.
But yeah, I think making Star-Lord and Gamora a thing is not necessarily a great idea.
No.
Because it doesn't make a lot of sense. I think for Gamora's character, it doesn't make any sense that she'd be interested in Quill.
Yeah.
So to play that angle and then shut it down and maybe redirect it somewhere better, I think is a cool idea.
Yeah, and I think some of my favorite moments in movies are when it looks like they're setting someone up to be a romantic lead, and then they just subvert that completely.
I agree.
Escape from New York has one of my favorite moments, and that is there's a moment when Snake Plissken like sneaks into a diner, and there's a woman there, and you think, oh, well, we finally met our romantic lead. Nope, she dies.
Yeah, I also just like really, really good platonic relationships.
Yeah, what's wrong with that?
Even in the MCU, Cap and Black Widow.
They're great, yeah.
They're really close. They mean a lot to each other. There's no romance.
Although, how would you feel if we got more of a Vision Scarlet Witch thing out of Gamora and Quill? Where you're like, we can sort of feel there's something there, but we're not quite sure they even know what it is.
I don't know. See, for me, I think it's kind of a betrayal of Gamora's character to make her even a little interested in Quill.
That's why I ask.
And so, yeah. And any sort of romance between them that's mutual, it will probably turn me off. Although, maybe not. Gunn
might turn them on.
It might turn them on, and Gunn's good enough that he might handle it in a way that makes sense.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but Marvel has enough goodwill that I would trust them to take a risk like that.
Absolutely,
and make it work. If it didn't work, then they lose the goodwill, but until they have a huge swing and a miss.
I mean, I think a lot of people... Personally, I thought it made a lot of sense. A lot of people weren't a big fan of Hulk and Black Widow in Age of Ultron.
Oh, yeah.
To me, that actually made a lot of sense.
Thematically, it makes perfect sense.
Thematically, it made sense. It was kind of set up in the first Avengers with that scene they had.
Yeah.
When she was recruiting him. But I doubt
that she was like, hey, big guy, once he transforms.
Right.
And then the whole, we could use a little worse.
Right. That being said, because that did not seem to be a popular romantic pairing, I don't think we're going to see any more of that in the future.
I think she'll at least be the most interested in getting him back for Infinity War.
Yeah. But
I think, and maybe her being in peril will be the thing that finally kicks it over into him joining back up.
I could maybe see that, although I think he'll wind up joining back up when he sees what they're up against with Thor in Thor Ragnarok, when he realizes the big deal that the Infinity Stones are.
Right.
And says, oh, okay, yeah, I'll come back and help you deal with this, because you and I can probably get shit done better than anybody else, so...
Yeah, I would agree with that. I mean, you effectively have the most invulnerable person and the most godlike person together. And if you're going to take on effectively a god, then you need both of them.
Yes, I agree.
And then some. Although, and I can't remember if it was Feige or someone else, that they've said that, maybe it was the Russos, they said that we're going to see everybody take a shot at Thanos.
Well, yeah, and they have to. Actually, this will keep us on Guardians for a minute.
Imagine that. We stay on a topic for once.
Who do you think should get the final shot on Thanos in Infinity War or in Avengers 4, whatever that winds up being called? Because in terms of which character deserves it, I think it's Nebula, Gamora, or Drax. Okay. But the movie has Avengers in the title, so I know for a fact it won't be any of those. It's going to be an Avenger, probably Captain America or Tony Stark.
I was going to guess Captain America and he dies.
That would be my guess as well.
Although maybe you do Tony and Cap together. The two that have been most warring.
Right.
They push through blue skybeam.
Sure.
In order to take down Thanos.
There's got to be a blue skybeam.
Blue skybeam, maybe like a force bubble of some sort that they have to get through, and they force through together where, Cap's shield up front, and it's like buckling and cracking as it goes. You have Iron Man using his repulsors to push them through the barrier, and then suddenly they crack through, poof, explodes. They're both gone, nowhere to be found.
Right.
And everything's saved.
Now, I think the other direction you could go, I like that. The other direction you could go is instead of having it be a farewell to the old guard, have it be like the ushering in of the new Avengers, and whoever's going to take the lead in Phase 4, you have them land the final blow. It's probably Captain Marvel or Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And speaking of both of those characters, they are just as powerful as Thor and Hulk.
Yeah, and that's exactly what I was going to say, is somebody like Captain Marvel is a perfect choice to like head up the team in the future in order to deal with bigger, badder threats.
Yeah.
Given the history of the character anyway.
And Feige has actually said that he expects Captain Marvel will have a power level off the charts, and that she'll be by far the strongest character they've ever had.
Now, would he describe that power as over 9,000?
I believe he would. I did not ask him what the
Next time you two talk.
What the scouter said about her power level. But yeah.
So, yeah, and I think
how do you feel about it being an Avenger that kills Thanos? Because when you think about it, the only people with any sort of personal motivation, personal issue with Thanos right now are Guardians.
So, this will land solidly in speculation, so it's great that we're having a speculation cast.
Yeah, this is the perfect place for it.
I've had a fan theory. I've told you this before. I think that Thanos has been in the Avengers movies more than we've been led to believe so far.
Okay.
I think he's been the linchpin behind a lot of the things that have happened, and I think the biggest thing that he's been a part of is the creation of Ultron.
Okay.
Because it's never explained how Ultron comes to be. Ultron just comes into being. Tony Stark says we weren't even close, and Banner confirms that. No, we weren't even close to this.
Right.
We weren't close to a breakthrough, and it just happens. So how does that happen?
Presumably because of the Infinity Gem, but what triggered that? Or Infinity Stone?
Well, where was that at that point?
In the Scepter, which they were using to... Because remember, they opened it up and it was the Mind Stone.
They were analyzing it, and it was too complex. It looked like a mind, and yet they weren't close to being able to do anything with it.
Oh, they weren't cracking it, but between... Yeah, okay, got it.
So my thought is, just like Loki was able to use some sort of stone to open a door from both sides, perhaps that stone, whatever's in Vision
That's
now,
the Mind Stone.
That is the Mind Stone. Perhaps that can be opened from both sides as well. And Thanos activated it from a distance, was able to create this being, and that would then explain I think it was the mid-credit scene where he puts on the gauntlet and says, fine, I'll do it myself.
Because Ultron was supposed to be his puppet to take care of his problem for him, just like Loki was.
Exactly.
And neither of them worked out.
Right.
So now he has to go and act directly instead of indirectly.
Right. So everyone always says it was Loki that was the villain in Avengers, and they were like, well, why do we have Loki twice now? But he's not. Thanos
was pulling the strings.
Right.
Right.
And so I think they might even retcon some things and have him be more of the source of their pain and frustration.
Right.
Maybe he activated the Tesseract so that Red Skull gets pulled away, and
right.
You could add in a lot of things with that. And I think if you have him, I mean, they'd pull a bit of a Civil War to have a sudden revelation that this character has been in their past the whole time.
Right.
But if you have this sudden revelation, everyone goes, oh my god, my name's Martha too, then they have a reason to attack Thanos.
Sure.
And it has cachet that currently only the characters from Guardians would have.
That's fair. So now we're not talking who's likely. Who would you personally like to see land the killing blow on Thanos?
Spider-Man.
Never gonna happen.
Never gonna happen, but I want it.
Fair enough.
Just because I would love to see like Spider-Man with a quippy line.
For the same reason I want Hawkeye.
Because that would never happen?
Because that would never, ever happen. But all the Avengers... You got Captain Marvel, right. Doctor Strange, Thor, slinging magic and lightning and thunder and Hulk fists, and then just arrow to the eye. And Thanos is dead. And exactly. Like comical sound effect. And Hawkeye just...
Or, you know who else would be fun? Ant-Man.
Ant-Man, yeah.
Ant-Man would just be fun. And I think, we're both sort of talking about the same thing, is that these movies have gotten very serious. Uh-huh. They started out very lighthearted, even despite Iron Man being about a war zone.
Right.
it was light. I mean, Tony Stark built this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Is such an amazing, like, scenery chewing line.
That's such a fun line, yes.
Right. That I think we're sort of like longing for a little more fun, and Ant-Man's one of the movies that holds a lot of fun. Spider-Man is shaping up to be a fun movie.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Just based on what we've seen of the character so far, the fun that Tom Holland is having on Instagram.
Guardians, of course.
Guardians is so much fun that, I sort of hope a few people die in the Infinity Wars movies. Because I think we need to reset things, make the stakes a little less dire.
Mm-hmm.
And, one way of doing that could be killing people off, or it could be using alternate dimensions. It could be something like that. And I know Feige's talked about that before.
Feige has talked about that. And that kind of can lead us into more speculation because he had a quote. He had a quote talking about Doctor Strange. And we are now seeing all these different dimensions in Doctor Strange. These parallel universes, these alternate worlds, the dark dimension, all that sort of stuff. And so Feige was talking about it. And he did say that there are lots of parallel dimensions and alternate realities and a multiverse, which is something that they're very excited to explore.
Which sounds amazing.
Now, he went on to clarify, though.
Of course he did.
That he did not mean it in the way that it's meant in the comics.
Too late, Feige. We heard it our way.
In the comics, of course, you have Earth 616, which is the main sort of continuity where everything takes place. You have the Ultimate Universe. You have all these different universes which are basically similar universes where a few little things are different, and that sometimes has big changes. I don't remember the designation, but there's one where it takes place in, colonial era.
There's one where everything's on fire.
There's the Cancerverse, right. There's all that sort of stuff.
I just had to look it up because I always forget. The MCU is
Earth 1999, right?
It's 199,999.
Yeah.
It's a 1 and then 5 nines.
Okay, sure. So
someone just leaned on a keyboard when they were naming it.
Yes. So, but Feige does not mean it like that. He actually said there's no parallel reality where there's Stephen Strange running around wearing an Iron Man costume.
Yet.
He did say we're not there yet.
Right.
And so, Nick, this
is my moment.
This opens up some possibilities. People are excited because it might mean a way for X-Men or Fantastic Four to come back.
Yeah.
People are also excited because it could mean Ultimate Universe. You get Miles Morales in there. People are excited for a bunch of reasons. There's one reason that you're excited that I know that you've been talking about for a few years now.
Yes. I think since the first Avengers movie.
Sure. Well, since you knew Thanos was going to be the villain.
So yeah, post-credits on that.
So post-credits of Avengers, you have been talking about what you want them to do after Thanos. Because a problem they had in the comics is after they did the Infinity War saga, it was really hard to raise the stakes from there.
Right. Where do you go?
Once you go with the entire multiverse collapsing, how do you get bigger stakes than that?
And especially because, especially in the comics, Thanos has destroyed half the universe in the blink of an eye.
Literally snaps his fingers, kills half of the universe. Just for funsies.
This is a character that they're going to have to balance carefully so they don't pull an apocalypse with him.
Right.
Like, oh, you can turn people to dust, but you're never going to use that except for that one time? Cool. And so for this, they're setting Thanos up to be the ultimate threat.
Right.
And if they do it right, he'll feel that way. The problem is, after the fact, no matter who you kill, you're always going to have the problem of how does anything feel like a risk anymore after you have a character that can snuff out half the universe.
Right. Where do you go from there? So, and you have an opinion on this.
My theory, because every battle these days has to take place with some sort of portal leads to some dimension or some other side of the universe.
Blue sky portal.
Right. Blue sky portal. My thinking is, in the final moments of this battle with Thanos, you have some hero or a team of heroes all leading the fight. They get closer and closer and closer to the Nexus. It explodes, and everything goes to white. And next thing you know, you see these heroes that were just leading the fight, on the ground. And you pull out, and everything's fine.
Mm-hmm.
You see no damage to the buildings. The city they were in, probably New York, is still standing.
Right.
And it's, maybe you have, Rhodey and Ant-Man and whoever else you have. And they're like, what just happened? And they go and they're like, oh, we need to talk to Stark. Stark's the only one who can answer this for us. They go and find Tony Stark at Stark Tower, which is still Stark Tower, by the way.
Right.
And they're like, Tony, we need your help. My suit's not powered up. It's not working. And he's like, Rhodey, you died.
So they're in a new parallel reality where things are different. The Avengers are not the Avengers we know.
My working theory right now in my fanverse that I've created is that the main difference that has keyed everything up is that Tony and Rhodey were in different Humvees on one day. And Tony was in the humdrum V. Rhodey was in the fun V. He gets hit with an RPG, dies.
Right.
And Stark becomes...
Because he can't build things in a cave.
With a box of scraps!
Right. And so Tony becomes even more of a warmonger. He's like, building weapons for the worst people. He just owns it because of his friends dead. What does he have?
Never figures out that Stain is working against him.
Right. And so all these things never happen. You never have the coming out of heroes because he's the one that broke that.
Right.
And you never have the escalation that Vision complains about. Vision, left in the other universe, doesn't have his infinite powers that we never get to see either.
Right.
And we now have to rebuild the universe with people, with a small team that have some knowledge of how bad the universe can be, but with no tools anymore. They know who might be out there, and now they have to use their knowledge and their memory to try and either convince people to join back up with them or recreate a new team based on the same skills and heroes. And then you can bring in alternate versions of different characters. Like instead of Peter Parker, you can have Miles Morales. Instead of one Captain Marvel, you have another Captain Marvel. They won't reboot it that quickly, but you get the idea.
I hear you.
And I would just love for them to have that as a way of completely resetting.
If there's no Iron Man, there's no Civil War. Wakanda might stay isolated. Black Panther might not want to be anywhere near America.
Right. And you could have them convincing him to come back. And hey, his father's still alive.
Right.
I mean, all that. I mean, you could have Cap still frozen.
Okay.
You could have a lot of different things. And it opens up the potential for some really interesting universe rebuilding.
Instead of recast, rebuild, reboot.
Yeah.
Which is why I hate that idea.
And it's why I love that idea, because it allows you to have something that you have had in the comics for decades, and that's the handing over of a mantle in a very natural way.
Yeah, but you can do that without rebooting the universe.
You can, but you still have the original stakes in place.
That's fair. And the stakes thing is the one problem that your solution addresses in a way that I don't hate.
Thanks.
Everything else about that idea, I don't like it, because I think one of the greatest things about the MCU is that something that happened 10 years ago that we've probably forgotten about still has ramifications in this movie that's coming out now.
But here's the thing. In a rebooted, or in a alternate universe, in an alternate dimension, you now have the knowledge that Thanos is out there somewhere still.
Yeah, but not really. Not the universe that we get to see.
Right. But he's never going to escalate to that point. So you have a group of people who know how bad things can get, and all they have to do is prepare for it.
But isn't the problem of de-escalation still there? Because you're still, maybe in universe, the stakes can be as high, or the stakes can make sense, or feel like they're building. But in the real world, if we see Infinity War, when the universe gets reset, whatever comes after that is still going to be much lower stakes than the thing that came before.
Don't worry, I have an answer for that, Doug.
Go.
Because if you suddenly have a group of powered individuals coming into a world that doesn't have the Sokovia Accords, doesn't have superheroes as public figures,
right,
have never saved the world before, they're going to be hunted. Easily.
Okay. By who?
By all the world's governments.
Okay.
I mean, you have this group that comes out of nowhere. And perhaps they have the same identity as a dead man. You have Rhodey. He's dead.
Right.
In that universe, let's say. You have people that maybe exist still. Maybe if Ant-Man's there, maybe he's in jail.
Right. So you have two Scott lines.
Right. And so governments are going to be naturally suspicious, and they're going to try and shut it down. And I think if it comes out of nowhere and they don't see the good they can do, they wouldn't necessarily go with something like the Sokovia Accords, which is just to neuter them a little bit. Mm-hmm. They would go for pure annihilation, and we might actually get a good version of the BVS storyline finally. Because I had to do it.
Maybe.
Had to go there.
Maybe. And I don't... I said I hate the idea. I don't hate the idea.
You hate the idea.
A little bit. I do hate the idea a little bit. Because I think that that's a step backward. It's the same reason that if they ever do a Black Widow solo movie, mm-hmm. I don't want it to be an origin story.
No, I would agree with that.
I want the universe to continue moving forward. And rebooting it and taking it backwards even if it makes sense in universe, even if they find a story reason to do it, it's still taking the universe back a step.
Well, then let me ask you, where do you go from Thanos?
Small. Really small. I think one of the reasons that Ant-Man worked so well, and to some extent Civil War, is that the conflict wasn't world-ending. It was personal, and it was small, and that was fine, and that made it feel big. Because when the entire universe is at stake, you don't care if 1 trillion people die. 1 million people on Xandar died? Who cares? I don't know them. I don't care about them. But when Rhodey looks like he might die, you're worried for a second. When it looks like Cap might actually kill Tony Stark, you're worried about it. So I go smaller, and I don't know what the story is, and I don't know who the leaders are, or what that looks like.
But you need a big bad at some point.
You do need another big bad. Galactus, I think, would be a good one.
We can't get the rights yet?
Not yet. Although, and this is more speculation that we should talk about, it seems as though Fox-Marvel relationships might be improving just a little bit.
Which is good.
Which is good. It's a step in the right direction.
But I think that they've been used to running their own ship over at Fox for too long. Hopefully Spider-Man Homecoming does gangbusters. Because if
there's no way it won't.
I mean, it has to be both critically and financially successful.
Okay. I think it will be, but continue.
I think financial success is a given at this point.
Agreed. Yeah, absolutely.
Critical success is still up in the air because of the weird blending of the studios.
Yeah.
You know, you might have too many cooks in the kitchen. If that works, I think Fox will be on board.
Okay, I can see that.
Because they'll see the good that Sony has gotten out of it.
Right.
And up until now, you know, running their own show has only gotten them so far. You know, they're at, what, a 50% hit rate right now?
Something like that. But they do have hits, and I think that's the key difference, is that Fox doesn't need it. Sony needed that deal because the whole studio was in trouble. Fox as a studio is not in trouble, and even their superhero franchises aren't in trouble. They're still making money.
Yeah.
Apocalypse didn't do that great, but it made money. Deadpool, of course, made tons and tons of money for them.
Right.
Logan looks really good.
Oh my God, that trailer.
The trailer was great, and it's probably going to make them lots and lots of money.
Yeah, and that's a good example of what looks like a mantle handing over, finally, in a movie.
Right. So, Apocalypse, not very well received, and it was the first movie without any of the original cast.
Right.
Well, First Class didn't either, but First Class was kind of a soft reboot, and then Apocalypse was the first one where they were really committing to that new team of X-Men as an already established team. That was the younger cast. People weren't so into it.
They had to do too many introductions and nobody got enough time.
Fair enough. But then
that was my biggest problem with it.
Wolverine leaving. Wolverine leaving is worse to the X-Men than Robert Downey Jr. leaving would be for the MCU.
Absolutely.
Because you have other characters that everybody loves in the MCU. Everybody loves Captain America. People love Cap more than they love Tony at this point. A lot of people do.
No, I would agree with that.
And if you look at MCU marketing, you can even see they've sort of shifted from Iron Man to Captain America.
Yeah, and I think that's a great move because, I mean, they've moved from cynicism, which I think works with the superhero movies that were out around the same time as Iron Man. You have to be a little bit cynical to stand out at that point. And I think now being earnest, which Captain America has always been.
Yes.
He's very earnest. He actually believes in something.
Makes him great.
Yeah, and it stands in such stark contrast to...
Stark.
NDC.
NDC. And I've said this on this show before, and I've said it to you a million times. The way Cap is in the MCU is the way Superman should be. But...
Well, and I've said that Superman is just Thor plus Captain America.
Right. And I think that's a pretty good analogy.
Yeah.
Anyway, my point is...
We had points?
If we lose Tony Stark, we still have characters in the MCU that we really care about. With Logan, we're losing Patrick Stewart. We're losing... We might have already lost Ian McKellen. Was he in Apocalypse? I did not see Apocalypse. Full disclosure. But anyway, it seems like McKellen's done. Now Hugh Jackman's done. Michael Fassbender's good, but name one other character that everybody gets excited about.
Olivia Munn.
I heard she had about 2 lines in the movie.
And it looked like a Halloween costume.
Right. Okay. So my point is...
It looks like she was thrown in, like, late in the game. They're like, oh, Psylocke's a character.
Right. So my point is, Fox does not need to work with Marvel now. But when Hugh Jackman's gone, when Wolverine's gone, that might change very quickly.
And to have that steady guiding hand of Marvel.
Right. And if they see that Sony is really, really benefiting from that deal, that might sweeten the pot enough. And we know that relations between the two studios are at least somewhat improving because we do have on TV Marvel Television co-producing with Fox the Legion show, which looks pretty good actually. And then there was the other one that was going to happen but then got pulled.
You know the title, I don't.
I can't remember what it was. Somebody tell me in the comments. But or I'll just put it in the lower third here so it's below me and you don't have to correct me.
Here it is, right there, everybody.
Yeah. So
look how smart we are. It's this
show,
one. This one right here.
Which did not happen, but then it was replaced with a new untitled Fox Marvel TV. So Fox and Marvel Television are working together.
And now it just says they're idiots at the bottom.
It does now.
Just giving you more work to edit.
Yeah, it'll be fun.
But yeah, their relationship is definitely improving, and it seems like they're taking the first baby steps towards bringing everything into a more cohesive symbiosis.
And so Logan comes out in March. Homecoming comes out in July, I believe. So. And do we know when the next X-Men movie, proper X-Men movie is coming out?
I don't know that offhand.
I don't even know if it has a date.
Spider-Man's July.
That's what I thought. X-Men next movie.
This is why we have computers.
Yep, so we can quickly Google things. Logan, Deadpool 2.
Which I'm so excited for.
Oh, did you hear about the director, though?
No.
The director and Ryan Reynolds had creative differences.
Of course they did.
And so the director is not returning for Deadpool 2.
You know what? I'd be fine with just letting Ryan Reynolds run around in the costume for 2 hours, ad-libbing.
Oh, so would I.
Let him loose on like a Hollywood red carpet. Just let him do his thing.
Okay, so March 3rd, 2017. Deadpool. The next Fox Marvel spot that they have marked on the calendar with no title attached is July 14th, 2017, which was originally...
I just saw this over your shoulder.
Yes, which was originally the date for Fantastic Four 2.
It's going to happen, guys.
Something tells me that's not going to quite make that date. We don't know if they're putting out anything.
Poor Miles Teller.
Yeah. Chances are they don't have... I mean, unless they have something in production already, nothing's going to make that date. No. Next one they have is October 6th, 2017.
They might key it up as like an announcement time. Good time to announce something since they know they have a gap there where nothing else is going to supersede it in the news.
Right. And then they have October 2017, which was for Gambit, but that has now moved off that.
Yeah.
So 2017, they have Logan coming out, and that might be it. I know they have Deadpool 2 in the works.
Yep.
They have X-Force apparently in the works. They have all these movies in the works. It looks like they're going to do a Dark Phoenix saga.
I hope not.
Well, from what I heard, the post or the end of...
they butchered it in the main storyline.
Oh, okay. Well, that's cool. But Apocalypse seems to have set that up way too quickly.
Yep.
But my point is, they don't seem to know what the hell they're doing, like always. They might have a year with one movie, or maybe two if Deadpool makes it. I don't think the Gambit movie is going to happen with Channing Tatum.
No, I hope it doesn't.
I
don't want to see Channing Tatum as Gambit.
Right.
Do you really want to see him with a Cajun accent?
So all of a sudden, Fox goes from being in this really powerful position to having nothing except Deadpool. And I would be fine if you just leave, because Deadpool's kind of off doing his own thing.
Yeah.
Leave Deadpool out of it.
He's in like a weird pocket universe that's sort of the same universe.
Right.
But is like a more
meta universe.
It's a subversive meta universe.
Right. Let that be its own thing, where he can reference the MCU, but he's not in the MCU, and bring X-Men over. And I think late 2017 might be the place where we see that happen, because the Sony deal Fox will get to see how that plays out, and their best properties will be behind them at that point. So I think by that point is when we might hear something.
Now,
so Galactus is the answer to the question that you asked me about 25 minutes
That's where we started. I was like, how did we even get here?
Yeah, you asked me who I thought the villain should be for Phase 4, the big bad for Phase 4 should be, And
Saga 1 or Saga 2.
Saga 2, right, yeah.
So I think a good place to end would be a question.
Okay.
And
to me or to the audience?
To both.
Okay. We'll answer at the same time. Get ready to type.
And go! Whoever answered first gets nothing. So, it's actually a two-parter.
Okay.
So, we have a lot of characters that now could come into the MCU.
Yeah.
So, the first part is, if you're to pick anybody that's been in any movie that is in any of the extended Marvel properties.
Right.
Who would you pick to add into the MCU if you could only add one more?
A single character?
Single character.
Okay.
And then the follow-up is, if you could add any character from any movie in any universe to the MCU,
okay,
who do you add? Go, Doug.
Okay, so, yeah, please, actually, I would love to see your answer to this question if you're watching. So, again, the question, part 1, character from a non-Marvel Studios Marvel franchise being brought into the MCU, and 2, any franchise.
Not even franchise. It could be
any movie.
It could be from Casablanca.
Okay.
Please don't be Casablanca. The strangest crossover ever.
All right. So the answer to part 1. Oh man,
I knew this would get him.
Yeah, because there are so many that I want. Fantastic Four is my answer.
And I will say, yeah, you can recast it. Like the people, the actors don't have to come with it. The characters do.
Right, but I can't bring all 4 of the Fantastic Four.
Okay, so you bring one of them?
No, because that you don't do just that. You have to have the team. That's what makes the Fantastic Four different.
So no Fantastic One.
They're the first family. You got to keep the family together.
Just the first guy.
No Fantastic One. It might be a villain like Galactus.
I think that's probably a smart.
I think that's the best answer because same thing with the X-Men. A single X-Men doesn't do you much good
unless you're bringing someone on as a mentor. If you bring in Professor X,
a mentor to who? Because you bring in Professor X,
somebody who's been there, done that, and has seen things that these heroes haven't seen, perhaps.
Yeah, but I think he works as a guidance and a father figure to mutants. And if you can't bring the concept of mutants with him, then Professor X is
okay. Fair enough.
So yes, I think I go Galactus for part 1.
Sure.
That gives you a great villain that works as a big bad.
Now, who do you bring in from any movie ever?
All right, my knee-jerk response is Batman.
Obviously.
For a couple reasons. One, I'd love to see Marvel do Batman.
Yeah. And we've talked about that before.
What actor they'd get, what filmmaker they'd get to do it, how he'd interact with the Avengers.
James Gunn directing Batman.
No, I think Batman has to be as serious or more serious than Winter Soldier.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And I'd love to see Detective Batman for real.
Right. Detective Batman for real would be great. But then, to have him be serious, brooding, detective Batman, interact with Tony Stark and Steve Rogers and the bright, shiny Avengers, I think that's got to be fun to watch.
It clashes, though. I don't think it works.
It only but it doesn't clash, because you could say that about, realistic Iron Man and fantasy Shakespearean Thor. They can't share a scene together. It would clash.
Fair enough.
But...
Doth mother know you weareth her drapes?
No, I think that works. And the reason why I ask is I don't have a good answer for either. The best I could come up with is I would love to see, like, James Bond.
Well, right, so that's what I was saying. My knee-jerk response was Batman.
Yeah.
But I think there's real potential from non-superhero characters.
And that's what I would love to see. Is I would love to see someone doing big, like, world-changing things in a very human way.
Right.
So someone like James Bond, who is effectively trying to change the world in different but equally large ways, and seeing the clash of context in that sense.
Yeah.
But I really don't have a good sense.
I mean, I think it'd be cool to see, like, James Bond team up with Black Widow.
Oh my god, yeah.
Right. The spies. That'd be great.
Yeah, and seriously, so if you guys have something that you'd like to see, any character in any movie or any character from any extended Marvel property that you want to see in the MCU, put it in the comments. Who knows? Maybe Kevin Feige will read it and go, hey, that's a great idea.
Kevin Feige does watch this channel. He's a big fan. He texts me all the time, lets me know that he loves the show.
He won't stop. It's really annoying.
Yeah,
actually.
Kevin, buddy, We gotta talk, man.
Those 3 a.m. texts, ooh, I know it's 12 out where you are. It's real weird over here.
It's a little desperate, but we're glad you like the show, so keep watching.
We like the show.
Yes.
We hope you guys like the show.
And on that strange note...
I was segueing!
Poorly. We are going to end the show
I'll
here.
let you be the judge of that.
But make sure to jump into the comments and let us know any sort of speculation you have, whether it's something we've talked about, Guardians, Infinity War, new characters, Fox deals, whatever it is, or something completely different that you think would be cool in the MCU. Let us know in the comments. And make sure you're following us on all the social media platforms. We're at the MCU Exchange on Twitter, at MCU Exchange on Facebook, and of course, MCUExchange.com for up-to-the-minute news, updates, reviews, and everything else related to the Marvel Cinematic Universe. Until next time, guys, I'm Doug Herring.
I'm Nick Fox.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye. Little dance, little dance, little dance.